Now, the clearly publicity-shy minor royals, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, opened up to real royalty this week, Queen Opera of all the Americas and beyond. Only about another 100 million or so around the globe got to watch and listen to, so the couple must have been pleased that their wish for privacy was being respected. Much of the content was absurdly trivial, like tears over a floral dress. But when the interview touched on race and mental health matters, it was incendiary enough to provoke an onslaught on the royal family from around the globe. In this week's Spectator, our deputy editor, Freddy Gray, writes that Harry and Meghan have set up their rival royal house in California, and he joins the show now, together with Spectator columnist Rod Liddle, who muses on the American individualism that explains so much of Meghan Markle. Well, welcome to you both. Freddie, what do you mean by a rival royal family across the pond?
Well, I think Harry and Meghan have established themselves as a house of woke, really. And I mean, I think we tend to overuse the word woke. It's a bit of a sort of catch-all. But it is quite useful in summing up their worldview. And their worldview is very much oriented around celebrity and sort of therapy, really, because if you watch the Oprah interview, it's like a long counselling session. And this is actually very potent in the media because people love talking about their feelings. And I think where Harry and Meghan got this idea from was the Heads Together campaign, which was something the younger royals launched in 2017 when they decided that mental health, they wanted to do a big drive on mental health. And a lot of sort of royal people, royal suck-ups, PR operatives, got very excited about this idea that the younger royals could rebrand the monarchy by talking about their feelings and how much they suffered. But I think other people within the royal family realised this was quite a bad idea and that people don't want to hear royals gassing on about their feelings. And so William and Kate sort of pulled back a bit from that, I think. But Harry and Meghan, it came to them very naturally and they couldn't stop themselves. So they have become this sort of rival house of therapeutic woke culture.
And Rod, you can see that in some of the language that both Meghan Markle and Oprah Winfrey use, because apparently what now matters is that people have their own truth. That what I think is truth, even if it isn't true.
Yes, and I think it lies at the very centre of this problem we have with Meghan and to a degree Harry. I mean, Harry matters so much less in a way because the driving force seems to be Meghan. That it's right from the beginning, our antipathy towards the woman, if there was any in the press, and there was, seemed to be not because she was of mixed race. I don't know anyone who objected to the colour of her skin. But because she was an American, and a particular kind of American who cleaves to those values, which some Americans do. And you see that in the narcissism, in the relentless self-examination and self-obsession. And I think it's the consequence, I mean, I suppose it's a pretentious argument, but I think it devolves from America's primacy of the individual over the communitarian, in that you can, if you're an individual, have your own truth. And you can, if you're an individual, have your own concept of duty, which is what she said. And her concept of duty didn't involve doing as she was told and performing a service for a country. It involved scampering off to California, i.e. doing what she likes. It's a very interesting view of the world. And I think a lot of the antipathy does come down to the fact that it really is a culture clash, not a racist culture clash, just that usual culture clash between the US and Britain. And don't forget that individualism we have imported to a huge degree from America. And that individualism is also part of identity politics, which, of course, both Harry and Meghan cleave to. Again, that people can be whatever they wish to be, and that what an individual feels is more important than what actually the truth is. So I think an awful lot of that plays into it.
It is interesting, Rod, though, the way the whole interview was framed, and particularly what Meghan Markle was saying with Harry, basically just having a walk-on part. it's very much the way a lot of woke dialogue goes there. So if I feel I've been victimized, I am victimized.
You are
Just
victimized.
enough to feel it. That let's talk about me. There's a self-obsession here. I'm the one that matters, particularly since I'm a victim and I need to justify myself. That my truth matters more than whatever the factual situation is. That I saw this being used by the weatherman on Good Morning Britain against Piers Morgan. It may not be true, but it's her lived experience, is this,
Yes.
whatever this new phrase is. And lived experience, if that's what you think it is, trumps facts.
Yeah. What's an unlived experience? I've often wondered that. I mean, you're absolutely right, and it shines through in everything she says. But it's also clearly the problem that there was with the royal family. Now, I agree with Freddie. I think most Americans don't give a monkeys about our royal family. I'm sure that's right. But it's that individualism. I am now part of this. I think she thought she was signing up to a kind of rather gilded celebritydom, which was a little bit like Hollywood, where she could express herself and put forward her very often inane beliefs about the world with no restraint. And then as soon as she found out that it was different to that there was something involving service and discipline and dignity involved, she scampered off to, as I say, to California or Canada, as she put it originally. We all knew they weren't going to be staying in Moose Jaw, Canada for very long, and indeed they soon went to Santa Barbara. So I think that's exactly it. It is exactly that woke culture which we have imported largely from the USA, and it devolves always to the individual. And there is no communitarian sense about it. There's no sense about whether it's good for the royal family or not, or whether it's good for Great Britain or not. It's about whether it's good for me or not. And that's the great difficulty. And somehow Harry, who, it's a terrible thing to say, may not necessarily be the brightest lad in the world, has been kind of dragged along with this. And I still kind of cleave to the idea that maybe in a few years' time he will regret what he's done. But certainly it doesn't seem to at the moment.
It's still not clear to me, Freddie, whether she was properly briefed or it was properly explained what being a royal meant, particularly one at that time they were quite pretty senior royals. Indeed, it was meant to be they were to be the Beatles. They were the four. It was Will and Kate, Harry and Meghan. Was she properly briefed, or wasn't she? And even if she was properly briefed, did she just think, I can change this? Because it does seem to me that she didn't understand two things. Being a royal is different from being a celebrity. And you have to behave differently. I mean, when did we last see the Queen jump on a billionaire's private jet? It's just not, or be filmed in conspicuous consumption. It's just not what they do. Plus, you can't really lecture people about global warming or inequality or all the rest of it. That again is, I mean, Charles has got into trouble for straying into some areas, but it's really not what you can do. You cannot have strong opinions, and you can't behave as if you are a Hollywood celebrity. And what I'm not sure is whether that was spelled out to her, or whether she didn't realize it, or it was spelled out and she said, yeah, but that's yesterday. I can be a celebrity, Hollywood style, and I can have opinions on whatever I want. Silence. Remember, she said she was silenced. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I found it a bit disingenuous when she started talking about how, she had no idea. She didn't really, she hadn't even Googled Harry. She didn't really know anything about this family that she was marrying to. I didn't quite believe that. And I also think that it shouldn't really need to be spelled out to you. And I'm sure she was told what the protocol was on various things, and then she just decided that wasn't for her. I thought it was very interesting that both Meghan and Harry went to such lengths to praise the Queen. And I think that's because they don't understand much, but they do understand the power of brands and sort of global brands. And in some sense, they understand that the reason the Queen is so popular is because she hasn't gassed on about her feelings. She's kept her mental health private. And that's something they're unable to do. And what they can't quite grasp is that they can't be royals in the royal sense, in the traditional sense, and be these celebrities who gas on about their feelings. It's just not sustainable for a monarchy in the British sense.
Was there not, though, Freddie, something a bit disingenuous? You praise the Queen.
Yeah.
We know why they're doing that. Whatever the view of the royal family, the Queen's global image is without parallel. Better than ever, I would say, in all the years she's been on the throne. So you can hardly be seen to trash her. But actually, you praise her, but you trash the institution which she has been head of. I mean, it's,
yes, for
it's
7
nonsense,
decades.
really, is it not?
Well, I think that's it. I think they probably do. In some, they probably can't admit it. Harry probably can't admit it to himself, but they probably do resent the Queen in some ways, because they seem to resent this institution that they felt trapped by. I think, as I say, I think the reason they praised her, it was disingenuous, was because they know that she's still very popular and they don't want to mess with her brand while they establish their own one.
Well, Rod, Meghan has got her way. She is a celebrity now there, big celebrity. I mean, she was a sort of C-list actress. She's now, if she called a dinner party in Montecito in California tonight, the whole A-list Hollywood would go if they're invited. But she's more than just a celebrity. She's now a cause célèbre. She's got Joe Biden's press officer. She's got Hillary Clinton. She's got Keir Starmer. They're all piling in on her side. Where does it go from here?
Well, I would hope into obscurity, but it doesn't look very much like that at the moment, does it? That's the great problem. And it's something Freddie was saying, and he was saying earlier about the Queen, that actually the reason the Queen has that reputation is simply because she does the precise opposite of what Meghan and Harry do. That is why that brand is strong. And the question we're getting now at the moment over here is what should be done about the royal family. The royal family should try to adapt. We've already got the Queen dressed up as Agatha Christie, going around the various members of the royal family to find out who said the naughty thing about Archie's skin. And there's this feeling that we must somehow modernise the royal family, but you can't. You can't modernise it in the way they want it to be modernised. It's an archaic institution. We could do away with it perfectly reasonably. I can perfectly reasonably see the argument for that. But what you cannot do is have a royal family which is stripped of its regality, of its dignity, and of its aloofness. You can't have that.
Freddie, the Queen clearly hopes that this can now be resolved behind closed doors. She doesn't want to up the ante with a public slanging match, either from the royals or from those who work for the royal family, which would only invite further retaliation from Harry and Meghan. Can she do that? Because it's true. This is what strikes me. You can see why the royal family does not want a public slanging match, much as they would like to reply. They can only have this resolved behind closed doors if Harry and Meghan agree. And of course, they now seem to live off the oxygen of publicity. This is what makes me think that they might go along with this. Take the most incendiary claim, the conversation apparently about the potential color of the baby. If this is to be resolved in public rather than behind closed doors, first of all, Harry and Meghan will have to get their story straight. They didn't have their story straight with Oprah Winfrey. Meghan Markle began by saying it was people had talked to her about it several times while she was pregnant. Then when it got to Harry, it turned out, no, they hadn't talked to her. It was him once before she was pregnant. And they would start to have to name people, give the context of it, give backup, proper interview investigation, which of course the Queen of America did not give. So maybe they will have an interest, Freddie, in just getting this resolved behind closed doors now. They've had their say.
Well, possibly. And I mean, the Queen and the royal family might find some way to bring them back into royal fold. I find that unlikely. I think I mean, as for the allegations themselves, we might find out that something was said in a relatively innocent way that then got turned into something else. We just don't know. And I find it, again, slightly suspicious that they kept the claims so vague, because if you do want to sort of set this ball rolling, you need to be a bit more specific about what you're saying.
Yeah.
Where do you think it goes from here, Freddie? I mean, I had thought that once they did the big interview and they got things off their chest, that was going to be as good as it gets for them. But well, I don't think that's going to be true anymore. This could be just the start.
I think the royal family's had these sort of episodes before. Of course, there was Diana, but there was also Fergie, and I watched an interview this week while trying to write my piece and it was Fergie with Oprah. And the amazing thing was how similar the interview was. If you take the racial stuff out, it was pretty much the same conversation. And so the royal family has to have these sort of periodic psychodramas to sustain interest. But I mean, the reason it always comes back, it always survives, I suppose, is because the Queen has this brand and this sort of perceived dignity. My worry for the royal family, and I'm not that worried because I'm not that much of a monarchist, but it is that once the Queen dies, you're then left with the younger generations who've done nothing but psychodrama and tabloid-style media for decades now. And can the monarchy still be dignified once the Queen's gone? I'm not sure that it can with the crop that's underneath.
Can I just say, I think, Andrew,
right.
I think you're absolutely right, Andrew. It's not going to stop. And it's not going to stop for a simple mercantile reason, which is that they cannot afford to let it stop. That all of the deals which have been struck between Meghan and Harry and Netflix and Oprah and all of their podcast, and they're apparently also going to be doing a situation comedy, which I thought they'd been doing anyway for the last 2 years. So they're going to do all this stuff. And all of that is predicated upon the fact that he is royal and she is royal. And so they have to be simultaneously associated with the brand, even if it means knocking that brand all the time. They need to keep their names in the limelight as being part of a royal family. So I think it will continue for a long time until everyone gets bored of it, Andrew, I would guess.
I think you may be right. It means, Freddie, finally point to you, that those of us who wish them no ill, but also have really no interest in what they have to say, think of what they have to say is of no importance. And they talk about many things of which they have no qualifications to talk about. And that it would be best if they just faded into obscurity and then they live a comfortable, privileged life and all the rest of it. That's fine. We don't care about that, but we don't want to have to read them all the time. We're not going to get our way on that, are we, Freddie? Rod's right.
Well, it will become like reality television. If they keep their own productions, if Archwell, their creative production company, keeps going, they'll become a reality TV program. They'll become a kind of like a Kardashians crossed with Made in Chelsea. And that is thrilling for some people, but most of us will find it pretty boring and ghastly.
And the ratings for these kind of programs, in the end, they may peak, but in the end, they always go into decline.
They will, yes. By season 3, it's pretty boring.
Well, while we've been on air, we just see that Prince William has broken the silence. This is really quite surprising. Almost it seems as if he's gone against what the Queen would wish. Prince William is being reported by Chris Schiff of ITN. We are very much not a racist family, says Prince William. He broke the royal family's silence on the interview. To his brother Harry, he says, I haven't spoken to him yet, but I will do. That's just broken. Let's finish off by getting your reaction to that from both of you. You first, Rod.
I suspect that of all the members of the royal family who sat down to watch that ludicrous non-interview, I rather wish it had been you doing it, Andrew, I have to say, but there we are.
Me too.
I think the two people who undoubtedly hurt the most were William and Kate. And I think my suspicion is that, I mean, I know very little about the royal family's internal workings, but my suspicion is that William and Kate felt particularly strongly and were probably more inclined to say something now than any of the other members of the family, because most of those barbs seemed directed straight at Kate and William. And that's the story which the press has had for the last 4 or 5 years. The question as to how much it matters. You know, I saw an opinion poll. There was one in the Daily Mail, and there was another opinion poll done by YouGov. I think, in a way, this turmoil which has been caused does not remotely reflect the views of the people in the country. The vast majority of people in the country have had enough of Harry and Meghan and rather like the Queen, and that comes out in 2 opinion polls carried out on the same day. I don't think they play at all well in the United Kingdom, and perhaps the royal family ought to be minded not to say too much, just to let them get on with it, because by and large we're all with them.
Freddy, quick final word from you.
Well, it's interesting with William, isn't it? Because although I'm sure it's very difficult, his falling out with his brother and all that, but as far as sort of branding goes, and William and Kate are as interested in branding as Harry and Meghan in their way, they've been rather successful in presenting themselves as the decent, dignified ones compared to the wild Harry and Meghan. I mean, do you remember when they did that slightly ostentatious, or it seemed to be ostentatious, they flew Ryanair and had themselves photographed flying Ryanair just a few days after Harry and Meghan had got in trouble for taking private jets while boring on about climate change. I mean, it is PR wars now, and it's PR wars between a younger generation. I think it's going to get very ugly, and I'm not sure it's very good for the institution of the monarchy.
No, probably not. Gives us something to write about, though, and talk about.
Oh, yeah, we're not complaining.